Hello students, welcome to 5th semester BA during the academic year 2020-21. During your 5th semester, you have to study two papers in economics. One is economic thought, which is a compulsory paper, and the other is an optional paper, wherein you can choose either development economics or statistics. I will be handling your optional paper, that is development economics, for the time being. I have already sent the syllabus to you all in the WhatsApp group that we have created. Today, let's begin with the first unit under development economics. The outline of the first chapter goes like this. After studying the meaning and definition of the concept development economics, we make a distinction between economic growth and development. Then we look into the measurement of economic development and then the determinants of economic development. Now, why do we study development economics? By studying development economics, we will have the opportunity to apply the tools of economic analysis to the problems and challenges facing the less developed countries or the underdeveloped countries, and to understand why some countries have been able to go through a process of economic and human development, while others have remained backward or undeveloped. Development economics is a branch of economics that focuses on improving fiscal, economic, and social conditions in less developed and developing countries. Development economics considers factors such as health, education, working conditions, domestic and international policies, and market conditions with a focus on improving overall conditions of the country. So, development economics is an important branch of economics where we study problems related to economic development of different countries. But remember, this study of development economics mainly refers to the problems of economic development of the underdeveloped countries or the so-called less developed countries. Maintaining development is a problem for rich countries, but accelerating development is more a concern for poor countries. Students, here you'll have to remember when we study this paper, Development Economics, we mainly focus on the less developed countries or the underdeveloped countries. So the focus is more on the poor countries. How do they accelerate development? How do they go about in improving the conditions of the people in a country, in a less developed country? Now we'll look into the definitions given by some of the economists as to what is economic development. Economic development is a process whereby an economy's real national income increases over a long period of time. This is a definition given by Professor Mayer and Baldwin. What does it say? It says economic development is a process whereby an economy's real national income increases over a long period of time. So here we have to focus on the three concepts. One, it is the process. And the second, the real national income. And the third, long period of time. So here, when we say process, process implies operation of certain forces such as social, technological, and economic. These forces stimulate economic development and help in accelerating its phase. So when you say process, it means there is a continuous development happening. So what are these forces? The forces can be seen in the form of optimum use of capital. When I say optimum use of capital, it means the best use of capital available in a country. And the next is modern techniques of production. How good are we in applying the modern techniques of production? As the techniques are advanced, production also improves both quantitatively as well as qualitatively. And the technological development, how a country accepts the various technological changes that happens and uses it in the mode of production. And it can also be seen in the form of population growth, improvement in skills, and organizational model. So that is one thing, that is the process. In that definition, you see the other concept, namely real national income. Now, what is this real national income? Real national income refers to the country's total net output of final goods and services expressed in real terms. That is, it is always expressed in terms of the purchasing power. When we just use the word national income, it can be in the form of money national income. When you use the word real national income, it is always expressed in terms of the final goods and services produced in a country, which is open for consumption. And the next concept is long period. Long period signifies that real national income of the country should rise over a long period to sustain the process of economic development. So when we say or when we use the word long period, remember, development cannot happen in just 1 or 2 years. It is a process whereby it has to continue over a long period of time. So this is the definition that is given by Mayer and Baldwin. But this definition suffers from various limitations. Mainly, this definition ignores the point that economic development generally refers to an improvement in the standard of living of a country. Therefore, economists suggest the per capita income to be a good measure of economic development. In the definition given by Mayer and Baldwin, remember, real national income is taken into consideration. But economists have criticized, saying that it does not measure the standard of living of a country. To measure the standard of living of a country, it becomes more important to take into consideration the per capita income. So, yet another definition was given by Professor Mayer himself, wherein he defines economic development as a process whereby the real per capita income of a country increases over a long period of time. Okay. So this is the definition given by Mayer himself. But this definition is considered to be an improvement over the previous definition. But this definition also had a few limitations because per capita income does not measure the welfare of a country. So we have yet another definition given by Colin Clark, wherein Colin Clark simply defines economic development as an increase in economic welfare. So you see that in the beginning, real national income was focused upon an increase in real national income over a long period of time. And the second definition focused on per increase in per capita income. And the definition given by Colin Clark focuses on economic welfare. Colin Clark says that unless there is welfare in an economy, there cannot be economic development. So these are the definitions given by Mayer, Baldwin, and Clark. But then we have another definition given by experts of United Nations Organization. According to UN experts, development concerns not only man's material needs, but also the improvement of the social conditions of his life. Development, therefore, is not only economic growth, but growth plus change. Change has to be seen in the form of social, cultural, and institutional as well as economic changes. So, this definition given by the UN experts is considered to be more satisfactory and a broad based definition. According to this definition, economic development is a multi-dimensional phenomenon. Moreover, this definition stresses not only on expansion of development variables but also on improving the quality of these variables. Therefore, this definition is found to be of great importance. So, likewise, we have several other definitions given by various economists. So, next we will go to the features of economic development. Features or characteristics of economic development. After a close examination of the various definitions of economic development, let us now discuss its brief features. The first one is economic development is a dynamic process. What do you mean by this? When we say economic development is a dynamic process, it implies that the development variables should continue changing to suit the requirements of economic development. It is a process involving the interplay of several development variables. When we say development variables, what are these variables? It could be in the form of education, health, literacy, infrastructure, anything of that kind. So whenever we want, if development has to happen, it should continue changing so as to suit the requirements of economic development. That's why we say the economic development is a dynamic process. It needs to keep changing as per the requirement of economic development. And the second feature is that economic development is a long-term phenomenon. Now, when you say long-term phenomenon, should remember development cannot happen in a day or two. It has to go on for a long period of time. That's why we say it is a long term phenomenon. And the third is that economic development is measured by real per capita income. Now, what do you mean by per capita income? How do we calculate per capita income? Per capita income is calculated by taking the total national income and the population divided by the total population. You get what we call as the per capita income. So, higher the per capita real income, higher will be the economic development. It implies that higher per capita real income is possible only when price level and population growth are kept under control. If at all there is increase in these two variables, the increase should be insignificant. Hence, price stability and constant population help economic development. Because as population increases and if the national income remains constant, per capita income is bound to fall. So that's why we say price stability and constant population will help economic development. And yet another feature of economic development is that economic development involves qualitative as well as quantitative improvements. Economic development requires both qualitative as well as quantitative improvements in the development process. When I say quantitative and qualitative improvements, it means economic development implies growth plus change. Growth is the symbol of increase in development variables such as output, real national income, capital investment, etc. Change refers to the alteration in social, political, and institutional and technical framework so as to increase the productivity. This feature suggests that development is multidimensional in character. Political stability, efficient and effective administration, international peace and cooperation are the further ingredients of economic development. And finally, and the most important, is that economic development is based on the principle of distributive justice. Economic development cannot take place as long as there is inequality in the distribution of income and wealth in a country. That's why fair and equitable distribution of wealth makes economic development more meaningful. When there are inequalities, people will not be prepared to cooperate in the implementation of development programs. So, what is required is that there need to be more of equality in the distribution of income and wealth. That is what we mean by saying that economic development is based on the principle of distributive justice. And next, we will try to differentiate between two concepts, namely economic growth and economic development. In recent literature, Economists use the terms economic growth, economic development, economic progress, economic change interchangeably. And sometimes they are used as synonyms. But some of the economists draw clear distinction between these two concepts, namely economic growth and economic development. Though most times we interchangeably use economic growth and economic development, economists do differentiate between these two concepts. Now, what is the difference between economic growth and economic development? So, in brief, let's try to find out the difference between economic growth and economic development. Now, if you see the first one, economic growth refers to mere increase in output of goods and services. But economic development means increase in output of goods and services due to technological and institutional changes. Just see the difference. Economic growth refers to just increase in output of goods and services. Whereas if you look into economic development, it includes increase in output of goods and services, but along with the increase, there need to be technological and institutional changes as well. That is the first difference that you see between economic growth and economic development. And from the first analysis, we can very well come to the second difference. As economic growth implies increase in production of goods and services, it is a quantitative aspect. Okay? It is measured quantitatively. So economic growth becomes a quantitative concept. Whereas economic development implies increase in production of goods and services due to technological and institutional changes. So economic development is a qualitative concept. I hope it is clear. Economic growth is a quantitative concept, whereas economic development is a qualitative concept, because along with the increase, that increase happens due to technological and institutional changes. And the third difference, economic growth is unidirectional. It is just focused on the increase in the output of goods and services, which means it is quantitative. Whereas economic development is multifaceted because it covers up several aspects. Could be technological changes, institutional changes, things like that. So it is multifaceted. And the next difference is that economic growth is mainly related to developed countries, whereas economic development is related to less developed or developing economies. And the next one, economic growth is a phenomenon. You can measure economic growth every year, whereas economic development cannot be measured every year. It is a long-term process. It just doesn't happen at a point of time or later. It is a continuous process. So we say economic growth is a phenomenon, whereas economic development is a process. And the other difference, distinction between economic growth and economic development is that with economic growth, you cannot say that there is well being of the people. People at large may not be well off even if there is economic growth, mainly because there may be inequality in the distribution of income and wealth. Whereas economic development ensures the well being of the people because it strives towards distributive justice as well. So, these are the main differences that we see between these two concepts, namely economic growth and economic development. So, maybe in the next class, we will discuss the determinants of economic development. That's all for now. Thank you.